Hello everyone, it's another beautiful day here in Nallathanni, also known as Dalhousie or Dalhousie. This is where Hatton-Nallathanni trail to the sacred Sripada mountain begins. I started my journey at Nallathanni bridge, which you saw early in the footage. Elevation at that point was 1252 meters and the Sripada summit point at 2243 meters. Which means we have to climb uphill vertically almost 1 kilometers. To be exact, 991 meters. The total distance is roughly 7 kilometers. You saw the Nallathanni bridge and the proper trailhead with that nice signage. Let's continue our journey and talk more about it during the hike. This is a very important landmark on your way to the sacred summit point. This place is known as Kehelgamu Vishrama Shalawa. In other words, Kehelgamu Ambalama. Ambalama, when loosely translated, known as resting hole, resting place, where people come in here and take a break. I'll tell you more about Ambalama, and this is the first such Ambalama or first resting hole we come across during our hike. There are altogether 5 of them until the summit point. I'm walking through this literally abandoned footpath with lots of shops lining it on either side. They are actually closed these days because this is the off season for Sripada trekking or Sripada pilgrimage. Because for most people, especially Sri Lankan, they consider visiting Sripada as a pilgrimage, whereas many others, especially tourists coming from abroad, they do this as a hike, rewarding and adventurous hike. So there are 2 seasons. The first one is the proper pilgrimage season, that is between December and May. The second season is the off season, which is between May and December. So this is actually the off season. It is November, so we are now just at the end of the off season, getting ready for the season. So we might come across lots of these shops opening up for business in the next month or so. Coming to a place called Makara. Oh, this is a dragon's pandol. It's kind of an archway or an entrance which is built across the Hatton-Nallathanni trail. You can see it's very tall and has this nice dragon carved into the concrete up there. It's a nice place. There's also a wildlife office here, and there's a nice reclining Buddha statue. I'll show you that in a minute. Here is the reclining Buddha statue and the Makara built across the pathway. Elevation at this point is 1305 meters. So we have climbed uphill so far about 53 meters. You are seeing a beautiful waterfall mountain. This has a nice name that is known as Aligoda Kanda. When loosely translated into English, that means mountain full of waterfalls. I think that's a beautiful and very appropriate name. You can see there are so many waterfalls falling down this rocky surface. Unfortunately, they can be seen like this only during the off season or when there is heavy rains. Otherwise they get pretty dried up. Anyway, you are lucky to witness this beauty. Alright, we have the waterfall mountain to our right. There's a massive water stream that you can hear very clearly even on the video. That river is known as Sita Gangula. In English, that's something like cold water stream that flows to Maussakele Reservoir, which you can see when you are traveling to Nallathanni or Dalhousie from Muskelia. Now talking about Dalhousie, that also has a very significant meaning. Normally the term Dalhousie is used for a hill country village or hill country station, something like Nallathanni. There are two other Dalhousie named places that I could find. One is in our neighboring country India, in Himachal Pradesh, Chamba district. I think there is a place called Dalhousie that is located approximately 1400 meter elevation. And there's another Dalhousie that is in Canada. If I'm not mistaken, there is also a university in Nova Scotia known as Dalhousie. Now talking about Nova Scotia, that also has a very significant meaning to it, because in the 1950s Canadian government gave us some wonderful General Electric Canadian engines for our Sri Lankan railways. One of those engines were named as Nova Scotia. If I remember the exact engine type, it was an M2 type locomotive, M2 subclass A version. So that's how a little bit of history about Nallathanni, Dalhousie and its connection to the international arena. So far we have been trekking for the last 45 minutes or so. I started my trek at 6:30. Remember that Dalhousie bridge, 1252 meters. I have climbed uphill more than 100 meters by now. There's another significant landmark ahead of us. There's a beautiful peace pagoda known as Japanese Peace Pagoda or Sripada Peace Pagoda. Beyond that, there is another beautiful waterfall known as Yaka Andu L. I have to do a lot of translation in this journey. For those who are not familiar with these Sinhala terms, Yaka Andu means the waterfall where the devil cried, because the shape of the waterfall resembles a crying devil. That's the reason. Not sure if we can see the same pattern today. Now talking about Sripada, Sripada is internationally known as Adam's Peak by many travelers, but we very fondly and lovingly call it Sripada because that's the real name. In addition to Sripada, we also call it Samanalakanda. Once again, another translation, Butterfly Mountain. The summit point we are going to climb today is the Sripada summit point at 2243 meters. That is the highest point in Samanala Forest Reserve. This is one of the upcountry highlands declared as a heritage by the UNESCO. Now you can probably make out the Yakanadu well in the distance. Right, okay. Because of the off season, there aren't many people, which adds this serenity to the environment. You can actually enjoy the hike. However, if you are new to climbing Sripada, I would highly recommend doing it during the season, especially if you are doing it for the first time, so that you can get an idea of the hike, the surrounding, the distance and the difficulty, so that if needed you can do this nice serene hike during the off season. Anyway, you can also see my shadow and my walking stick and the GoPro I'm holding in front of me while telling you all about this. I think we've been trekking for the last 3 or 4 minutes telling you stories. Let's go and take a break at Peace Pagoda. There is an amazing view of the Peace Pagoda and the waterfall. There are 2 mountains on either side of the waterfall. On the right hand side, the smaller one is known as Yaka Andu Gala, or the rock where the devil cried. That is 1850 meters in height. The one in the far on the left hand side that is known as Hatton-Nallathanni, or the mountain where the devil cried. That is 1910 meters in height. So on the right hand side, the rock where the devil cried. On the left hand side, the mountain where the devil cried. In between is the waterfall where the devil cried, and the beautiful peace pagoda in the middle. Here is the pathway uphill, somewhat steep, towards the peace pagoda. There are nice steps built into it. Let's go and enjoy that beautiful view. Look at this amazing view, people. Just out of this world. In Sri Lanka, there are other such peace pagodas scattered across the island. I've also seen such peace pagodas in Nepal and India. Look at this view, people. This is something made at heaven and brought to the earth for us to enjoy. This is an amazing view of sacred Sripada mountain summit point at 2243 meters. Just out of this world. Hopefully we'll be able to get up to the summit point and enjoy the surrounding view very soon. We are at 1426 meters. This is another significant landmark. This is the Ambalama number 2, or the second resting hole. This place is known as Hatton-Nallathanni. Here is a closer view of that beautiful Yakka-Nallathanni, or the waterfall where the devil cried. Amazing sight indeed. Crossing the 5000 feet mark, we started at 4108 feet for 1252 meters. Sripada is at 7359 feet, which means we have to climb 2359 feet more. Here is a beautiful view of the Sripada summit point, and the blue sky and white fluffy clouds. We crossed resting hole number 3 at Sitagangula, or cold water stream. I showed you the interior, but there was so much noise I couldn't say anything. Elevation at that point was 1555 meters. We are actually now getting close to the resting hole number 4, known as Ratu Ambala, or red resting hole. Here is an incredible viewpoint. We can also make out the highest mountain in Sri Lanka, Pidru-Talagala. That is over 2500 meters in height. We can clearly make out the communication towers, but I don't think you can see it through the GoPro. There are many other mountains like Tel and one end of the Horton Plains as well. Such an incredible find indeed. After the very tiring uphill climb, I've reached 1797 meters, just below 6000 feet. I crossed the resting hole number 4, which is known as Ratu Ambalama, or red resting hole, but I couldn't wait there to get some video or photographs because there was a massive crowd. So I decided to keep climbing uphill. So after the lot of huffing and puffing, I'm here. This place is known as Goluthanna, small plain like place. You can get a nice view of Sripada from here as well. Let me show you that. Here is a beautiful view of Sripada mountain. 6000 feet mark is just ahead. Beyond that we will come to the 5th and the last resting hole. Here is an amazing view of Hatton-Nallathanni mountain with an height of 1910 meters. One of the very tall mountains within Sripada Forest Reserve. Through this gap we can see towards Mali border, beyond that Davaniyagala, if I'm not mistaken. We are getting closer and closer. This place is once again very important. We are at 1895 meters. This is where the provincial border between Central and Sabaragamuwa runs across Hatton-Nallathanni trail. We started in Central province Now we are going to cross into Sabaragamu province. Nuwaveli district to Ratnapura district. That's where the Sripada mountain summit is located. I keep huffing and puffing, but for this time it's been a tough hike, but I managed to keep going slow but steady. Here is the fifth and the last resting hole located at 1905 meters. That is roughly 338 meters below the summit point. So beyond this point there is nowhere for you to take a break. Let me take you through the inside. Here is the inside of the last resting hole. This is known as Indikatupana Ambalama or Indikatupana resting hole. Not a big one, but quite sufficient for a group of 20 to 30 people to spend the night if required. However, there's something they have done which is really bad. They have lit a fire, like a bonfire, in the middle of this resting hole, which will contribute to its destruction. We should never do such things. 1910 meters. There is a connection between Hatton-Nallathanni trail and Ratnapura Palabadra road that goes round the mountain. That is to your left. This is approximately 600 meters in length and is used especially during the season to connect the two paths. I'll tell you more about these two paths later on. There is also a police checkpoint here. Now we are getting into the panoramic territory. You can clearly make out those mountains that we came past, and the waterfall and the distant view of Sri Lankan upcountry, including the highest mountain in Sri Lanka, Pidurutalagu, somewhere right in the middle of the frame. Here is the Sripada summit point, getting closer and closer. We are now looking at the 2000 meter mark, which means we have less than 250 meters to climb uphill. You can now see there are 3 lines of handrails on this path. From here it's going to be the most difficult section. That's why you got this handrails where it will be easier for you to climb uphill or downhill. There are 3 main routes to come and reach Sripada summit point or do your pilgrimage. They are known as Hatton-Nallathanni trail, the one we are climbing today, and the second most famous one is the Ratnapura Palabadala trail, and the third one is the Kuruvita Erathan trail. In addition, there are 3 other less prominent trails known as Malibuda trail, Dehenakanda trail and Sandagalathanna trail. That Sandagalathanna trail originates from Central Province and crosses into Sabaragamuwa and merges with the Hatton-Nallathanni trail. If you look closer, this is that trail where it comes and merges with the Hatton-Nallathanni trail. So I'm sitting at a very significant point. This is actually very close to the 2000 meter mark when you are climbing from Hatton-Nallathanni. In addition to that, there are 2 other very adventurous trails that you need to trek along a river called Battuluya. I managed to do one of them. There is one more pending. So all in all, there are 8 trails to reach Sripada summit point. I've been lucky enough to do 7 of them. Hopefully I'll be able to manage the 8th one next year in 2024. Tell me what you make out of this view. Down below you can probably see the Peace Pagoda. You can see how far down it is located. I was there about 2 hours ago. So in 2 hours I managed to climb close to maybe 700 meters. That's a great achievement. And there are 2 mountains very prominent. You can see one on the right hand is known as Dakinapura. On the left hand side is Ballan Bandi Hela or Balla Bandi Hela. In fact, that is the highest point in Kegol district. Kegol is one of the 2 districts from Sabaragamu province. The other one is the one we are standing right now in Ratnapura. Sripada summit point at 2243 meters. Amazing view indeed. This is the uphill path that we have to go to reach the sacred Sripada summit point. The time is at 9:30, so I've been trekking altogether 3 hours. Very important vantage point. You can see the sheer steepness of the path and make out the summit point up in the sky. We are about 200 meters from the summit point. This should give you a good comparison of where we were about 2 hours ago, where we are now. That's insane, isn't it? But you feel so rewarding once you reach this height. All the pain in your legs have evaporated into this thin mountain air. Unbelievable feeling. So peaceful, so calm. This is one of the reasons why I would love to climb Sripada during off season, because you can really enjoy the surrounding views, feel the mother nature, and that feeling is just incredible. You can't simply describe it. The best viewpoint so far. Just amazing. You can get this 180-degree panoramic view. As I speak, you can make out the Mausakkele reservoir, one of the very few upcountry reservoirs in Sri Lanka. The stream that we paralleled at the beginning flows to that reservoir. Incredible indeed. Right, there's a swarm of bees flying overhead. Got to be very careful. Okay, let's try to make out some landmarks. Straight in the distance is Hatton Plains National Park. There are 3 prominent mountains: Kirigalpotta, Agrabopat or Kudahagala, and Totupala, one of the 3 highest mountains in Sri Lanka. And then to the left is Pidirutalagala, the highest in Sri Lanka, 2524 meters if I remember correct. In between there are few other less prominent mountains such as Kotagala, Del, and Fordyce Gap, and many others. Down below is the Mausakkele reservoir. Beyond the ridge that you can see above the reservoir, there is another upcountry reservoir known as Castle Re. That's also beautiful. You can see that when you are coming from Hatton towards Muskelia. Talking about Muskelia town can be seen from here just beyond the reservoir on the other side. Now down below to the center is Dalhousie or Nallathanni, where we started our trek. Remember, 1252. Beyond that, up above, there is a tea estate that is known as Lakshapana Estate. It has a few divisions such as Walamale and Hamilton. Now up there you can see a mountain that is Dakinapura, that is beyond the tea estate. Right, now we can clearly make out the Yakandu Well, Peace Pagoda, and the waterfall mountain, Yakandu Gala, Yakandu Kanda, and Ballan Bandi Hela. The view is just incredible. Down below you can clearly make out the path that we came uphill from Peace Pagoda, Gangulathanni, Sita Gangula. So many historical landmarks. We are now approximately 2050 to 2100 meters elevation. The point you see known as Hulang Kapul or wind gap. Especially during the off season, there are strong winds crossing the Hatton-Nallathanni trail across the mountain towards Ratnapula Parabhadra trail. I promise to tell you about these 2 trails in a little while. This is the downhill view from Wind Gap. When it's windy, really difficult to cross this section. That's one of the reasons why people don't want to travel during the off season. Views are just incredible, people. Now in the far distance you can probably make out a small plain like place that is known as Gawaravilla or Gawaravilla Plains, sort of like a mini Hatton Plains. Gawaravilla has 2 prominent mountains. On the right hand side is a mountain called Mahamuni Kanda. If I remember correct, that's 2060 meters in height. On the left hand side is Gavaravilla Kanda. And then down below there are some tea estates such as Moka, Gartmo and Frogmore. Now in the near vicinity you can see this virgin montane forest. Right in the middle probably you can make out a clearing like a small plains. That is called as Hatton-Nallathanni or moon plains. Now don't get confused, there is another moon plains in Australia. This is not that one. Now the trail I showed you a short while ago that connects to Hatton-Nallathanni, Hatton-Nallathanni trail that runs through the beautiful plains with a nice view of Sripada. Hopefully I'll be able to take you there one day. We're at 2100 meters in terms of elevation. And the views are just getting more and more breathtaking. Can you make out the leopard pug marks on the concrete? Off season belongs to the Mother Nature. You can see she's reclaiming what is rightfully hers. Unfortunately, within the next month or so, the humans will come and take it over from her for the next 5 months until May. Once again, she will come and take it over from the humans. So this cycle will go on and on and on. Living in harmony with the Mother Nature is the best way to coexist and to prolong our existence. The moment you start working against her, so many things will go wrong for us. We just crossed 2120 meter mark. This place is known as Abeywickrema in Sinhala. Anyway, we got another 123 meters to reach the sacred Sripada summit. Pretty dark passage, almost like walking through a tunnel. You can see the tunnel mouth at the end. We are now less than 60 meters below the summit point, almost at touching distance. I've been trekking for the last 3 hours and 45 minutes. Well, with the summit point in touching distance, I decided to take a small break because I am within my target window of 4 hours. I started at 6:30. I wanted to be at the summit point by 10:30. I've still got about good 14 minutes to go. Hopefully I'll be able to get there within that timeline. Now talking about the trails to reach the Sripada summit point, I told you there are 3 prominent paths, 3 less prominent and 2 adventurous trails. All of these 8 trails come and merge with 2 main paths. One of them is the one I'm sitting down now, Hatton-Nallathanni trail. The other one is on the other side of the mountain on Ratnapura Sri Palabhaddala trail. So Hatton-Nallathanni is on the east side of the mountain, whereas the Ratnapura Palabhaddala trail on the west side of the mountain. So all the by trails come and merge either with Hatton-Nallathanni or Ratnapura Palabhaddala. So those are the main parts of the Sripada mountain where you can come and worship, do a hike or whatever you call it. So those are the ways where you can come and worship this sacred Sripada mountain. However, if you are going to plan your Sripada pilgrimage or hike for the first time, I would highly recommend sticking to either Hatton-Nallathanni trail or Ratnapura Palabhaddala trail and do it during the season, not the off season, because there are no facilities, no help available during the off season. Once you got a hang of the trail, feel for it, you will be able to come and do this during the off season and enjoy the Mother Nature. However, it's really important we don't litter, we don't leave anything behind and don't do anything to harm the Mother Nature. As long as you respect her and take care of her, regardless of whether it's season or off season, doesn't really matter. So with that thought, let's climb the last bit of this beautiful mountain and worship the sacred footprint of Lord Buddha. Here we are, finally at the summit point. Well, very close to the summit point, in fact. Finally we are at the summit point, and this is the Hatton trail. Here is the surrounding view from the summit point. Looks absolutely out of this world. Another panoramic view. Looks absolutely breathtaking. Here is the sacred Sripada summit point when seen from Hatton Trail. Just incredible. Let me show you this from the Ratnapura Trail as well. This is the Sripada summit point when seen from Ratnapura Trail. Incredible indeed. With this, my Sripada pilgrimage, off-season pilgrimage, comes to an end along Hatton-Nallathanni Trail. Well people, it's time to end my journey then. Off-season Sripada pilgrimage, which I did on Hatton-Nallathanni Trail. I'm in fact standing on the Ratnapura Padabhadra Trail, just close to the summit point. Wanted to give you a bit of a feeling as to how it looks like. Pretty much the same. The most important message that I have to give you is that please visit Sripada as a pilgrimage or as a hike, but make sure you protect the mother nature. Don't litter, don't leave anything behind. This is a very pristine environment where we need to take care of. Therefore, please help protect Sripada Forest Reserve. And it should not only be the Sripada Forest Reserve. Wherever you go, please help keep our country, our environment clean. With that message, this is Sri signing off from Sripada Mountain. I'll be seeing you once again with another hike like this. Until then, stay safe and take care.